status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. Oh, bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. Bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. Oh, bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. Bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. Oh, bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. The foundation leads the fight. The warriors lead the tribe. When the beat drops and the spirits rise, we find the truth behind the disguise. They want us to go away, only our hearts do we obey. The foundation leads the fight. The warriors lead the tribe. When the beat drops and the spirits rise, we find the truth behind the disguise. They want us to go away, only our hearts do we obey. No ranks, no chains, just unity. One tribe, one light, one destiny. No ranks, no chains, just unity. One tribe, one light, one destiny. Bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. Oh, bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. Bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. Oh, bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. No ranks, no chains, just unity. One tribe, one light, one destiny. No ranks, no chains, just unity. One tribe, one light, one destiny. Bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. Oh, bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. Bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. Oh, bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo.
Welcome back to the Irreverent Warriors podcast. It's actually a warm, beautiful day here in Missouri, believe it or not. We're getting very lucky with the weather on Fridays. I don't know. I mean, it's
Relative.
relative. I'm Hugh from Irreverent Warriors, of course, joined by Roy from Irreverent Warriors as well. And we are going to be covering a lot of hot topics today. One of the we've got late breaking news. The Pentagon just released a letter that is authorizing psychedelic assisted therapy for active duty, reserves, and National Guard members who have met the criteria for PTSD or TBI. So we'll be jumping into that in a little bit. First, we've got a wonderful video that we're excited to share with you about Irreverent Warriors' oldest member, someone near and dear to my heart. So we'll be pulling that video up and getting it going. Roger. Thank you.
We are honored to share the incredible life story of our oldest Irreverent Warrior, Colonel Dan Danford, a 97-year-old whose journey is nothing short of extraordinary. Born in 1928, the same year Mickey Mouse made his debut, Danford grew up in the close-knit farming community of Aledo, Illinois. There, he embraced the values of hard work and perseverance, spending his youth candling eggs on the family farm and showcasing his athleticism on the football field. These early experiences shaped his robust work ethic and team spirit, qualities that would define his remarkable life of service. After high school, Danford's sense of duty led him to join the Army National Guard, marking the beginning of a distinguished military career. Recognized for his potential, he earned a coveted spot at the United States Military Academy at West Point. While there, he had the rare privilege of playing football under the legendary Vince Lombardi, learning invaluable lessons in discipline and leadership. Graduating in 1952, at the height of the Korean War, Danford eagerly volunteered for the Airborne Infantry. Shortly after marrying his beloved Mary, he completed Airborne Jump School and deployed to Korea as a second lieutenant. On the front lines, Danford quickly rose to the role of Rifle Company Commander, where his leadership was tested under the harshest conditions. Among his many harrowing experiences, one stands out, a moment when he courageously ran to save a soldier being attacked by a tiger, exemplifying his bravery and quick thinking. While Danford was in Korea, his first daughter was born. By the time he returned home in 1954, she was walking and talking, but didn't recognize him, a moment that deeply impacted him. Following Korea, Danford returned to West Point as a professor, helping shape the next generation of military leaders. His career then took him to the jungles of Vietnam in 1967, where he served as the battalion commander of the 2nd Battalion, 502nd Infantry Regiment, 101st Airborne Division. His unit acted as the quick reaction force for the entire country, deploying via helicopter to the most intense combat zones. The battalion endured a staggering 70% casualty rate, and Danford's valor shone through during an ambush when he single-handedly neutralized a North Vietnamese army bunker, armed only with handguns and grenades. This act of extraordinary bravery earned him the Silver Star. After an arduous 18-month tour in Vietnam, Danford returned home as a hero. He later ascended to brigade commander of the 1st Brigade, 101st Airborne Division, and ultimately culminated his military career at the Pentagon, retiring as a full colonel. His decorations include 2 Silver Stars and 2 Bronze Stars with V devices for valor, underscoring his exceptional courage and leadership. Transitioning to civilian life, Danford founded a successful corporate consulting firm, which he later sold. Always committed to community and faith, he used the proceeds to help establish an Episcopal church in Northern Virginia. Even in retirement, his dedication to service never wavered. Today, at 97, Colonel Dan Danford remains a humble and inspiring figure.
You know, the bird could go right in through this hole here.
He dedicates his time to mentoring veterans, emphasizing the importance of addressing combat trauma through faith and entrusting one's burdens to God. Despite his countless accolades, he remains modest, often downplaying his heroic acts.
You're doing good.
Don't break your camera.
Danford's involvement with Irreverent Warriors brings him immense joy, especially the organization's diverse community and the inclusion of women veterans. A lifelong learner, He says he strives to remain open-minded and non-judgmental, inspiring everyone he meets. His parting wisdom? Silkies make a great swimsuit. Yes, yes they do.
It's fantastic that we've got, these open-minded, these older folks that get involved with IW. I look forward to celebrating his birthday. He's turning 98 in May, so that's going to be fantastic. And so it's awesome to see some of these older folks. When we were at the Key West hike, Roy, and in Key West, the hike was being led by a Vietnam veteran that was in 1st Marine Regiment that got wounded in combat, and he led the entire hike. You remember? I mean, he was...
Yeah, he's got a great story on how they found him.
Oh, yeah?
Well, apparently the year before, they had found him just hanging out in Key West, and he came along, and he was like, this is amazing.
No way.
And was just hooked.
That is such an IW story. But I love that we've got these older folks, because everyone thinks of IW as the young, kind of raucous, kind of crazy, younger GWOT crowd. But we actually have on the hikes, we always have some older folks, and it's fantastic. Will, how you feeling today?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How are you doing?
Awesome. We just got this news out of the Pentagon that psychedelic therapy has shown in the data to be so helpful, and the outcomes have been so dramatic that the Pentagon has now approved it for use with active duty, reserve, and guard troops.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's the cream rises to the top and the truth always comes out. So I'm thrilled to hear that.
Yeah, and there's actually a letter that the Pentagon put out that we're about to show here, and what it essentially discusses is the use and the authorization of treatment of certain conditions using psychedelic substances. And so if we jump into the meat and potatoes of this, you'll see that interestingly enough, one of the places in which this psychedelic therapy is going to be offered for active duty troops is going to be at the University of Texas Health San Antonio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so in San Antonio, they are going to be starting in August. They're looking for patients now, but they're going to be starting in August, and this is PTSD treatment for active duty military personnel, also open to reserves and National Guard. But basically anybody that's being seen at Brooks Army Medical Center or Carl Darnell Army Medical Center is going to be eligible, and they're going to be putting together a list of the folks. But they're taking 100 folks from active duty that are interested in these studies because, I pulled some data on it, but I don't think it's any shock to any of us that the Pentagon would finally take this step.
Well, it's a big deal. I mean, is this a clinical research thing or is it a program?
It's called a trial program.
Okay, so kind of a in-between, huh? That's pretty fantastic news, man. So how do people get involved with that if they're a BAMC and they want to participate?
If they're treated in one of those facilities, then those psychiatrists and psychologists will be the ones that are picking candidates or referring candidates, I guess you could say.
Well, that's pretty exciting. We will definitely want to keep very much on top of that and share that information out to anybody that's down in old San Antonio area. We've got a big presence down there, so great opportunity.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to what you and I have been saying for a while in the veteran community, which is there are alternative modalities that actually improve mental health far more than pharmaceuticals. And, I pulled some data. According to the VA's own data, as well as clinical research from the journal Nature Medicine, MDMA-assisted therapy, psychedelic therapy, people that have done a couple of sessions, 71% of them no longer have the symptoms to meet criteria of PTSD. 46% have a full remission. So there is no lingering trauma related to any of those emotional events that they were holding on to. And there's an 86% clinical improvement across the board with these folks. And so And the people that are picked for these studies or volunteer for these studies have treatment-resistant depression, which is defined as, treatment-resisted trauma and post-traumatic stress, which is defined as they've done all of the other treatments. They've done significant levels of talk therapy and pharmaceuticals, and still of that, those folks that weren't helped as much by those therapies with the alternative modalities, 71% of them were essentially fully healed. Isn't this what this is saying?
Yeah, it sounds like it to me. I mean, and really, this is already stuff that we know. We've been trying to spread the word on for quite some time, and this is acknowledgement of that. We are not bringing this kind of information forward to anybody that engages our content as the sole owners of this truth or this modality. We're just echoing what the veteran community has already been engaged in. I mean, we have been in a situation where, as you say, everybody's going through all these things, this treatment resistant issues that people have. We have seen those types of people come in and successfully engage this, and I think we understand the reasons why. But that has permeated, through the scene as, somebody tells their friend, and they try it, and they tell their 10 friends, and so on and so on. So that little spider web is really kind of growing out. And our role here is just spreading that awareness, because you know what? If you should have the opportunity to engage in something that has this level of demonstrable impact, as opposed to just a blanket prohibition on these things at work. It's unconscionable that is the case, but that's where we are, and so that's where our work comes into play.
Right,
making people aware.
Absolutely, yeah. One of the things I pulled when I was looking at this, I was like, wow, the Pentagon's really making a statement with this psychedelic program for active duty. And I thought to myself, why would they do that? So I pulled the data. I mean, I know personally from my experiences that I did all the talk therapy, I did all the pharmaceuticals, and what helped me was this deep work, right? And so I ended up pulling a bunch of data on how talk therapy lines up with this psychedelic assisted therapy that the Pentagon's doing. Basically, it's less than half as effective, talk therapy is, and which is good. It's still effective for some folks, right? But it's less than half effective, and it takes way longer. And so, so what it looks like is with this psychedelic assisted therapy, after 3 sessions, people are no longer meeting the criteria for these conditions, and they're living a much better standard of life afterward. Whereas with the talk therapy, it could be years to get half of the benefit, which, again, for some people, that's fantastic.
Sure.
That works. But how many people fall out of those therapy programs that are going on for years, and you've got to have weekly appointments, How
many of those are built on trust where they make real progress? And how do you build trust with somebody when your doctor's constantly changing out?
Well, there's certainly a trust issue going on for sure. I can echo that. And ultimately, here's the interesting thing about this. Both the talk therapy and the psychedelic assisted therapy are both going to the same place. That's been my experience. And there's, everybody's experience is unique to themselves. But overall, as a general rule of thumb, I would go so far as to say the magic that's in these types of modalities with these altered conscious states, it's allowing you to understand what's at the root, and it gives you a path of how to integrate that information and move forward in your life productively, where you're not holding on to something that doesn't serve you. That's exactly what talk therapy is doing. It's getting you to that point of understanding. Now, I think where the advantage comes in and how this thing works as effectively as what it does is what's going on with these psychedelics when you're in that state. You kind of lose the ability to bullshit yourself is ultimately what's going on. And if you're engaging in talk therapy, ultimately that's what you're trying to go through and get to arrive at as well, as that truth and that understanding. But as somebody who's been through talk therapy, I can tell you, I am my own worst obstacle when it comes down to actually understanding myself, because what separates us from the monkeys, guys, is our ability to believe our own bullshit. And that's what it comes down to.
Can we just pause real quick so that I can say that I am always the biggest obstacle in my life. Like I am my biggest roadblock, whether it's replacing a toilet or it's talk therapy. I am consistently my own, like getting in my own way, my own worst enemy.
Oh,
you know,
it's one of my favorite songs too.
Oh yeah, tell me about. I didn't know that.
My own worst enemy, right?
Oh yeah. A lot of angst.
A lot of angst.
Yeah, a lot of early 2000s angst there.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, this topic brings up another topic. One of our IW Missouri members, Trey Warren, who spoke at our Silkies hike. He's a former lieutenant commander in the Navy. I know you guys both know him pretty well, but for our audience, I want to talk about Trey a little bit. And he is a former lieutenant commander, F-18 fighter pilot in the Navy who graduated from Top Gun and did 4 combat deployments, 3 of those flying off of aircraft carriers, did over 400-something missions off of aircraft carriers, and also did a tour on the ground calling in airstrikes for special operations forces. So he's seen both sides of the coin with combat, similar to all of us, no stranger as well to childhood emotional trauma. And he reached a suicidal point and found out about a program where they took him to do something called Ibogaine.
Yep.
And it had profound healing impacts on him. And knowing Trey the way I do, I've never seen anybody change in such a positive direction so quickly.
Absolutely. Trey's story is, if you haven't seen that episode that we did with Trey telling his story, go watch it. It's on our YouTube. It's on our social media. It's worth the watch. Yeah, there's a wonderful episode. Yeah, you did a fantastic podcast with Trey on this topic. Well, a fantastic film has come out and is making a huge buzz on Netflix. This Netflix film is called In Waves and War. I went and watched it recently, and I tell you, it blew my mind because it was like it was talking about me. I mean, it hit so close to home because similar to these veterans in this film, I went down to South America when I was at the end of my rope, and I tried some of these plants, and that's how I completely turned my life around, right? And the plants didn't heal me completely on their own. I had to do a lot of personal work with emotional intelligence, with forgiveness of myself, forgiveness of others. You know, there was a lot of work that came along with it, but it opened the door and gave me a ton of hope. And it really helped me a ton. And this program that helped Trey, our IW friend, they made a documentary about it. It's on Netflix. It's not, Trey's not in the documentary. It's a bunch of other guys. But they made this documentary, and CBS just did an episode on this documentary. So we're going to show that. It's about a little bit longer than 5 minutes, but we're going to show that episode. And I really encourage anybody with Netflix or anybody interested to check it out, because it's just the data coming out and the clinical outcomes that are being shown. And this is done with Stanford. This film is done with Stanford University, and this nonprofit that helped Trey, they work with Stanford University, and the data outcomes, the clinical outcomes they've shown have never been seen before as far as healing emotional trauma. Right. And these guys talk about how a lot of the stuff they face is childhood stuff. I have seen that over and over and over again in this work. Yes. So it's just really phenomenal. So we'll go ahead and play that, and then we'll discuss. Yeah, let's see it. If CBS is talking about it, we are making strides, folks. Let's see what CBS has to say. PBS. Oh, well, that's an entirely different ball game. But no, I'm kidding. I'm still interested to hear what they have to say. My bad. Yes. No, PBS. PBS. They're breaking it down.
For many veterans, the battle doesn't end when they come home. The invisible wounds of combat, like post-traumatic stress disorder, can leave some feeling withdrawn or isolated. Tomorrow, a new documentary premieres on Netflix entitled In Waves and War. It follows a group of former Navy SEALs as they confront their trauma and find healing through an unconventional tool, guided psychedelic therapy.
This is just one of those points in medicine where I've got to have the courage to jump.
That medicine takes you right to the crest and you fall off.
Ali Rogan spoke to the film's director, John Shank, and one of the Navy SEALs featured in the film, Marcus Capone.
Thank you both so much for being here. Marcus, the beginning of the film is you and some of your fellow team members talking about the trauma that you experienced, not only on the battlefield, but interestingly, well before you all joined the military. Tell me about that.
You know, I think from the film and the themes that come out of the film that I think a lot of this started potentially when we were, at young ages, child, 4 or 5 years old, 10 years old. It's something I think we've never talked about. And I think having traumatic experiences at a young age is potentially what forces us to go into certain careers as a special operator or other high risk, or I would say protector type fields. And for us, it was special operations. And it's something that if you ask any one of us, we would never look back. We would never do something different. We would do it the exact same way. But you take childhood trauma, you mix it with some wartime trauma, transition trauma, maybe some traumatic brain injuries, and you have a very difficult mental health issue that's very difficult to treat through traditional approaches to care.
And John, we hear in the film a team member saying that he wished he had just lost his arm completely when he was injured, rather than have to deal with the more difficult feelings of kind of worthlessness when he was unable to join his brothers in the field. What have you learned in making this film about the difficulty of dealing with those psychological scars of war?
Well, in the film, you meet these three amazing guys, right? Marcus Capone, Matty Roberts, who I think you're quoting, and DJ Shipley. They find purpose in their life in the SEAL teams. They find brotherhood. They find love. They find acceptance. They find a reason, as DJ says, to get out of bed each morning, swing feet out of bed. When they get injured, whether it's physical, like literally losing a limb, or mental, a brain injury or something like that, and they can't go back out there anymore, that's a huge change in their lives, something that is almost impossible to adjust to without the help of your friends and community and family.
And let's talk about how you started down that journey, Marcus. You had hit some dead ends with traditional treatment, and as a bit of a last-ditch effort, you try this compound called ibogaine. It's an experimental psychedelic. What is ibogaine, and tell us about your experience with it.
Yeah, ibogaine is considered a psychedelic drug. It's a Schedule I in the U.S., so individuals have to travel outside in places where they're legal. Schedule I, by nature, in the U.S., is supposed to have no medical benefit. It's supposed to have a high risk to abuse. Ibogaine is the complete opposite. We're seeing now with, just through our program, over 1,200 individuals that we've treated and have gotten better. They come to us with substance abuse issues, and they stop drinking, or they stop their narcotics if they're addicted to opioids, for instance. This is a clinician-guided treatment that is monitored by nurses and doctors, and individuals go in there with really the intent to heal from wounds of war, heal from traumatic brain injury, heal from childhood trauma, really whatever it is.
Marcus, we see in this film some really interesting, great animation of these trips that you and your fellow team members go on. But how does this work? How does ibogaine contribute to the healing process?
It gets to the root cause of the issues that are affecting your everyday life. Too many treatments put a Band-Aid fix on it. Many of these antidepressants are really just covering up the symptoms. Psychedelics get into your unconscious, so it takes potentially 5 to 10 years of psychotherapy, what a therapist or a psychologist is trying to get to in a few hours. And that's just incredible.
The interesting thing about ibogaine, Allie, is that everybody that we talk to, and we talk to dozens and dozens of retired Navy SEALs who've done this treatment, describe a very visual experience, a life review that they describe kind of like a movie or a slideshow. And just as a filmmaker, it was like we were kids in a candy store, because we could go and we could animate those details of those experiences and put them on the screen for the audience to try to begin to understand this highly complex thing that scientists are only beginning to understand.
You mentioned the work that you've been doing in this field, so I definitely want to talk about VETS, the organization that you and your wife founded to help connect veterans with this treatment. Tell us about why you decided to really make this your life's work in such a big way.
I was on the standard I guess, standard treatment protocols that many of us coming back from overseas are on. So for me, 7 years of failed antidepressants, talk therapy, too many brain clinics, you get frustrated. And for this was a lifeline for me. And all we wanted to do is pay it forward. We have funded in 6 years over 1,200 individuals to receive the exact same treatment. We can't meet the demand. We're overwhelmed with applications. I'd say we could accept 1 out of every 10.
Well, and to that point, John, I wonder, what do you think needs to change on the policy front on this issue?
Who would have thought that right now the zeitgeist would be basically a pro-psychedelic zeitgeist? I think that the American public is ready for this. We showed in Waves and War to the Texas State Legislature a few months ago. They were poised to pass a bill that would funnel tens of millions of dollars into ibogaine research, which was successfully passed. California has now followed suit. North Carolina is on the cusp of doing the same. Hopefully we'll have action at the federal level. I think the film is part of a movement that involves people from many, many walks of life that are part of this new look at psychedelic medicine.
The film is In Waves and War. Marcus Capone, John Schenk, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I will. You know, it's got to be interesting, Will, watching that, because it's like this is exactly what you've been working on. I mean, this is what you've been working on for years and years and years and years, and now Stanford and Netflix and PBS and everybody else is starting to catch on, you know?
It is a rolling, man. In fact, Missouri is also playing with legislation this year. I will actually be testifying at the state legislature in our capital, Jefferson City, on the 16th at 4:30 p.m. So if you're a veteran and you're around Jefferson City and you want to come lend your voice and support, or maybe just show up and get involved in that kind of advocacy, we'll be at the state capitol on the 16th. Give us a shout. We'll link up.
I think the move that they just said there on PBS of showing the film to the legislature changed minds, you know?
For sure.
And so it's something I really encourage everyone in the Grunt Style Foundation and the Irreverent Warriors tribe, even if you're not interested at all in any of this, you know somebody that is struggling. You know somebody where traditional treatments haven't helped. This is curing... This is shown to cure treatment-resistant PTSD and treatment-resistant depression. So you know somebody that's in this place. And so just by watching the film In Waves and War on Netflix, you could help educate them, because when you feel hopeless and you feel like you've done all the things that the medical establishment has told you to do, it becomes really dark. I turned to alcohol. I turned to a lot of my own substance abuse, really, in order to try to numb the emotional pain, because the psychedelics and the talk therapy, it just wasn't getting to those underlying issues that I'd hidden from myself. And so I pulled some data. I pulled some data on that Stanford study that they just that they talk about in the film In Waves and War, and it shows that 88% reduction in PTSD symptoms, 87% reduction in depression. Could you imagine when you were at your most depressed being told that you could have an 87% reduction after 1 weekend of therapy in Central America? That would have
believed it.
I would not have believed it, but it's unbelievable. 81% reduction in anxiety. And you know, Trey Warren, the IW guy that went down and did this exact program, I've seen this in him.
Sure.
Anxiety, depression reduction, PTSD reduction. I mean, he's joyful again.
He is on fire,
joyful.
man. He's on fire.
Joyful.
I'm hanging out with him this weekend, by the way.
I'm so jealous. I have a man crush on Trey.
Well, you can come along if you want. We'll talk about it after the episode.
Love it. I know he's coming back on May 18th. I think we have him, or May 15th. We have him signed up to come back on the show.
You know what? Speaking of the Waves of War and Trey, here's an idea to pitch. Maybe we go and rent the View 17, and we invite all of the veteran nonprofit groups in St. Louis to come in for a screening of that film, and then we'll have Trey, do a Q&A.
Now that is a hell of an idea. Yeah, that'd be fantastic, because he's been a part of this study and all of this work that's been going on, and he can testify that, hey, I'm a fighter pilot, Top Gun graduate, former lieutenant commander in the Navy that didn't believe in any of this.
It's one of those, and that's why this work is important when we're doing it. And we beat this drum a lot, but it's important that we beat this drum a lot, because as the truth is starting to come up, to the surface, I think we're going to make bigger strides faster, right? And it's important to get that word just out there that these things are a thing, because like when I found it, I was at the point I was ready to eat glass if I thought that was going to fix what I had going on. And I still had to lie to myself to even go into that modality, because at the time my rationale was, I was saying, well, that sounds interesting, but come on, I'm a pretty skeptical guy in that area, and I was really angry at God at that time, and I just had a whole lot of chips on my shoulder, and I convinced myself, because I had heard, this is way back, we're going back a decade now, when I was first coming into contact with this stuff. And I kept hearing all these stories of these guys going down and having these liberations, but there was that part of me that was like, I want that. And so I kind of lied to myself by saying, well, if I'm doing this work and this is part of the veteran conversation now, I can't in good conscience talk about this in a meaningful way, either for or against, with skepticism or endorsement, without having had that experience. And so that's what I told myself, and that's what happened when I went in and I first encountered that medicine. And that lie lasted all of about, what did it take, 45 minutes into that session before, you figure out, oh, this is legit.
Yeah.
And then you just can't lie to yourself anymore. And I think that's a large part of the healing, because that's how we actually get to understand the actual truth of our lives.
Yes, absolutely. Because it had you face a little bit of accountability, but just enough so you could start the forgiveness process, right?
Oh yeah, and dude, I'd never even so much as smoked a joint of marijuana before I sat with ayahuasca for the first time. I mean, I was either that's how forward-leaning I was, or that's how desperate I was. One of the two. I'm not really sure. Well, how about you? You first time you sat, were you skeptical? What was your first encounter like?
So I was kind of at the bottom of my hole that I dug myself in my own mind, with a lot of substance abuse and different things going on. And my relationship was coming apart. And I also had a very close friend that was just a little bit worse than me. So he was ready to kill himself. And he said, he was living in Colorado at the time, and he was like, hey, I can get access to psychedelic assisted therapy. And so I told myself, my ego told me, hey, I'll go sit with him. I'll go help him.
You'll be the helper.
I will support him so that he doesn't kill himself. Right. Because I'm terrible, but I'm not as bad as him. Right. So exactly same thing happens. I get into the session. We start down the path, and then the meditation begins, and then it starts bringing me in to face some really important things I was in denial of. That it's funny, once you face them and accept them, they dissolve, and it's loving, right? It's all loving, but it's kind of terrifying, right? And so, but I told myself, oh, I'm here to help somebody else and save somebody else. It's not about me. And then immediately I was like, yeah, I've got a lot of work to do. And then it became my own journey.
Right. Well, now
both of us ended up thriving now.
Yes.
I want to mention that myself and my best friend, both of us, we are doing phenomenal now.
That's
but
fantastic.
At the time, we were at the bottom. And so I've seen this really, 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 really help people over and over and over and over.
Well, you're a ride or die kind of friend then, man, if you're willing to go step into the dark at that level. But that's what the songs say, man. If you're not willing to step into the dark, the healing can't start. And that's and it is simple when you kind of take that bold step in. Now, Roy, I know your wife has some experience with these modalities. As someone that has not sat with this full level, these kinds of modalities, what did you witness with your wife from before to after, and kind of how you see it as a spouse?
Some of the largest changes in her personality come relatively close to when she will go play with whatever new plant medicine she's playing with that time, or not even new, just the same one she's played with before. They open so many doors for her to address her own issues that she makes, like I said, substantial progress in changing those things that just, when you look at them in yourself, you get annoyed by them. So when you see them in other people, they just really are blaringly apparent to you when you see them in other people. So it's nice to not have to see those, my faults in her too.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the little secrets of medicine work too. Those things that trigger us are really an invitation to take a look at yourself and figure out why it's irritating you so bad.
Yeah, and I mean, I think what we've all experienced is this, what the Stanford data is showing: 88% reduction in PTSD symptoms, 87% reduction in anxiety, and depression. You're seeing these incredible numbers come out, and I think we're seeing that in our own lives.
Oh,
we're
for sure.
seeing that, but then we're still meeting so much negativity and pushback from the veteran community. Certain folks in the veteran community, they'll tell me, I'm sick of hearing about this. I'm sick of everyone talking about us going to go do drugs. But these are the same folks that clearly the traditional methods are not working for, but they're so angry that this is even being discussed.
Yes.
And I can't help but think that I used to be like that.
So I have kind of an interesting insight on that. And I'm not saying that's the case. I mean, there's people that have legitimate, issues with, all sorts of different modalities, and psychedelics. It's a big culture shift, man. I mean, especially if you're my age or close to my age. I grew up in the 80s, and the satanic panic and this is your brain on drugs, and all the messaging. And I think they were doing their best job that they were doing towards the goal they were trying to reach. But I think it conditioned us to the point where now we almost have this religious issue with this type of a topic. It's just that level of taboo, and so that's a big shift to try to put on people. Now, with my in terms of people being like fatigued by it, in terms of where they start to become angry with it, that's kind of an interesting side story. So my wife had a lot of her own trauma. And when we kind of came into this encounter, years ago, when we first found that, we went together. And, I had this huge experience, and she had a lesser experience. She's not experienced, but was lesser. And so she became kind of jealous, I guess, of the other folks that were having these big experiences and big takeaways. And, the fact of the matter was she was the you, and you're going to go help your buddy in the story. She was coming along with me because, I don't think she was really ready to engage that kind of work. And as we say in the foundation, there's two types of people. There's those that want to heal, and then there are those that want to heal. And we almost all start in that second category, and the game is to figure out how to get into that first category. Well, that was her. But as time went on, and I'm continuing to have these, encounters and experiences, and I'm learning, and I'm growing, and I'm healing in different ways, we started to become a little unbalanced, and there was a lot of resentment at me and my friends and the other space, and just the modality itself, and the practitioners we were working with as it became a professional thing in my life. And that was really damn hard. And, she tried several other times because I think she felt like, she was doing it wrong somehow, and she would try better this time. And so that you can't come to this space just because somebody makes you aware of it and tells you. You have to be in that first category of someone who wants to heal. They're just tired of being tired, and they're willing to take that step. They have a good understanding of what this offers and are able to let go of their own pride and ego to step into that space. She never got there in that time, and it became to the point where it was so much resentment, she became a problem in the marriage almost. And then finally, she arrived at that point where she was tired of being tired. And so after a good gap of many years, she went back and sat again on her own without any influence of me being there or watching her, making her feel one way or the other. And she didn't really know anybody else was there, so she didn't have to wear the mask, of who's she going to be that weekend, so she was able just to kind of connect and have that heart opening. And man, let me tell you what, when she came home, it was the first time I've ever met that person.
Wow.
A version of her that predates when I ever knew her. And I really love who that person is. And it's been really good. And so the adventure will continue. And now I have this partner that's equally yoked in this movement of where we're wanting to go together. And the blessings are bountiful.
Healing mental health and preventing veteran suicide. I mean, that's what we're talking about, and that's what we're here to do, you know. And I would love for folks to go watch that movie, you know, In Waves and War, on Netflix, and check out the letter released by the Pentagon, and you know, just. I don't know. It's good to be educated, whether you're not interested or not. It's always good to be educated, because there are a lot of folks in our world, in the veteran suicide space. There's a lot of folks that have treatment-resistant depression, anxiety, and PTSD. So I just think it could only be helpful. So.
And it's going to be more prominent. It's not going away. It's not going to become less in your face. It's going to be quite the opposite as time goes on. Because, again, these rates are incredible, man. 87% of people.
Yeah.
Now imagine each one of those people that sit in that are influencing 10 other people, and they influence 10 other people. It's not going to be long before most of society understands what this suggests.
Yeah.
I saw a study this week where they were talking about microdosing psilocybin in lab rats was curing fatty liver disease, type 2 diabetes, like...
Wow. So you're saying there's other medical benefits we don't even know about?
Yeah, apparently there's ones we haven't even thought to even look at.
Fascinating. Well, I know that you know, Stanford did a great job with this film. They did a great job with this study that they're doing, and I think, you know, they're going to continue to find even more that comes out of this. I know that what Trey experienced was he had a lot of TBIs, and there's been growth and repair of a lot of the neurons in his brain, which is just like they're not even. They don't. The doctors don't even know what to think about it.
Well, look, Ibogaine is showing. Well, I'm just gonna frame it this way. It's curing Parkinson's, man. It's not treating the symptoms; it's curing it. And how this is happening, the mechanic that's going on is this is nootropic. It is regrowing the white tissue on the brain. That's what's happening. And where a lot of these neurological disruptions are rolling through, or where they're damaged, it's literally being physiologically repaired.
Wow.
And so, and as far as
it's illegal.
Well, Texas is leading the charge. I'm sure that's why this is open to BAMC, because Texas did. And there's, you know, most all this movement. And guys, keep in mind, what we're seeing here, Waves of War, the foundation's only 4 years old.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We were involved when Brian Hubbard, who is really kind of the John the Evangelist on this Ibogaine that's really piercing the consciousness way ayahuasca has, and psilocybin hasn't, you know, so on. We were there in Kentucky when he announced his findings, when he was charged by the state of Kentucky to act as the commissioner to address the issue of opioid abatement.
Yeah, because it shows to cure opioid addiction.
Yes. In fact, it has a complete and total reset of the opioid addictors or opioid receptors instantaneously. It takes you back to a place of pre-addiction, no withdrawals, none of this stuff. So for people that are, you know, addicted to heroin for whatever reason, maybe they were prescribed high-powered opioids and couldn't find it, so now they're sourcing it on the street. Boom, you know, that's amazing. But that's how fast this is moving, guys, because what happened in Brian Hubbard's story was the political fight between the attorney general and the governor, and kind of disrupted it. And then the political lobbying and all the pharmaceutical interests got involved, and they rejected Ibogaine, which has an 88% efficacy on first-time administration. And if you are in the cohort that has to receive a second round of it, that efficacy jumps to 98%. Now, that's on the issue of opioids. So you turn into the other mental health stuff and the cessation and ideal suicide, you know, and all that kind of stuff. It's as equally as powerful as we've seen, you know, through stories like our friend Trey.
Sure.
But that was all replaced by Suboxone.
Wow.
So the Kentucky's final answer to how to address the issue of opioid addiction is to give people synthetic opioids. It's gross and it's disgusting. But that was 3 years ago.
Synthetic opioids make way more money than one-time treatment in Central America, right?
That's exactly what it boils down to. But from that time to this time has been a slingshot rocket ride, man.
Sure.
That was only a couple of years ago. Since then, he's teamed up. Joe Rogan is what threw Brian into the main spotlight, and he was paired up with Governor Rick Perry and the fine folks over at Vets, and just so much has happened in 3 years. What's this going to look like in a decade from now?
Yeah, I mean, I hope it really changes the conversation, because I came home from Fallujah, Ramadi, all that stuff. The only things I was offered was pharmaceuticals, take more pharmaceuticals, and we'll try to get you on a list for talk therapy, Right. So this can only improve the suicide numbers and bring suicide numbers down, to have things that show this kind of data. But yeah, that kind of wraps up today's episode. I think we've got a bunch of cool IW events coming up that I want to call out. We've got a lot of folks headed down to Puerto Rico right now. Tomorrow is the big
So jealous.
Old San Juan, the city of San Juan, the hike around the bay. It's just gorgeous this time of year down there in Puerto Rico. Shout out to Audie and all the folks from IW Puerto Rico helping put that together. Fort Lauderdale, South Florida, huge hike going on down there. I know Roy helped fold and ship 100 Grunt style shirts down there, so those will be given out. Those are going to be some free giveaways for the hike, so make sure you make your way to Fort Lauderdale if you're anywhere within driving distance. And also IW Adventures Caribbean Adventure Valentine's Day cruise is coming up, so if anybody's interested in doing all around the Caribbean on a Valentine's Day cruise, IW Adventures has that going on. Everything's on our website, irreverentwarriors.org. Click on events, you're there. So,
all right.
Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful Friday. Another beautiful sunny Friday. It's actually way more warm than normal here, so
I'll take it.
We get lucky.
I'll take it. All right, man.
right.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
Stay
Peace
waxy,
out.
everybody.